So we will darn a woolen sweater, and so you see there's like a big hole here, and I first prepare a few threads. We will do a visible mending, I cut just a few threads in a different kind of colors. So I have a thread with knot. I don't make a knot. So I leave the loose end, and now I look a little bit to my hole here. So I see some loops here, and also some loose threads and very thin threads. And so what we will do is you can have two darning techniques. So one is more about weaving. So it's like a weave and like how textiles are woven, right? So you make long threads and then you weave in between. Another way to darn a woolen sweater is to mimic the stitches of the sweater itself, like the knit. And that's called a I forgot the stitch. It's like I forgot the stitch. I will come up with it later. So it's following exactly the stitches of the knit. So what we will do is use the weaving technique, because you can really make very nice sort of, you can use like the same thread. That's what I want to say, is like you can use the same color of the thread, so you will make an invisible mend. But if you use a visible mend, and that's why I also selected a few colors, is that you can use different colors to make it a very vibrant style. So that's what we will do. So what we see here is like the loops of the knit, but I also see in between, I see sort of like the threads that are, you can think of them as warp, and we go in between. So we start a little bit under the hole, and I will use a weaving technique. So I go under one thread and on top of the other one, and I take the next thread on top of the other one, and I take the next thread, and then here I just cross the hole, and then here there's like a little bit of a mess, so that's why I also want to see. I take this thread out and hold it, and then I continue with weaving, because actually that's what we are doing. So now there's one thread. I took the needle under the thread, and I go back with the same technique in between the stitches. I weave to the other side. I make a jump. What can we do here? I take this and continue. So the tension should be a little bit loose, because a knit is of course a textile that can, which is kind of elastic. So then, it can really change the shape while you move your body and change with you. So should not be too tight, especially when we are weaving. We should consider that really well. that we are not too tight and that it is loose enough to go with the knit. Okay, so I've done 3 of those of this color. Now I'm gonna change my color to make it a nice visible mend. This is a kind of thin thread. I will still use it only, you can use it double because it is kind of thin, which maybe is also handy with the wool I use, with the wool of the knit. But I prefer to use it only a single. So again, I start under do the same thing with the blue thread. I start under the hole and continue the weave. And then make a jump to the other side. And then with the needle under to 1 row, or half a row, actually half a stitch. And I go back. So now we are at the border of the hole, and I also will show something else, because here it's maybe nice to do some switch darning. Switch darning is mazen in Dutch, but you follow actually the stitches of the knit. It's really simple. So look at what I'm doing. It's like here I can see the whole stitch of the knit, right? It's going from here to underneath and on there. So if I follow that stitch with the needle, I'm sure that I'm in the same place, and then I follow the stitch. And then I can also, you just follow the thread of the knit. If I want to go in the row that's above it, like you have a row of stitches here, there's a row of stitches there, and go back to where I was with the weave, then I simply go, everything what you want to do in the knit you can do in between the stitches, because there's a back side of the stitch and a front of the stitch, and if you be in between with the needle, then you can just shuffle things where you want to shuffle it, where you need the thread, or that's really handy with knitting. You can. I also see here, come across a very thin thread. It's really nice that I'm now doing the switch darning, because I really need that here. Because it's if you have, like when you have a woolen sweater, and sometimes the elbows, they get thin, or there's another place that get thin, and you can, with Swiss darning, you can overlap the knit, and then it's good as new again. So here you see a little hole, and there is like, this is my thread what is still there. So now I quickly put something over, make a Swiss darning stitch, and now I have saved it to be like a real hole. So I like that it is here, there's blue, there's white, then there is my mending, right? So I would like to keep a little bit of the whiteness there to make it, I like how it looks. So in between, I go back to where I was, and in between I go here, and I make another jump to the other side. Here I see I have a very thin thread. I have to check if it's still attached to the knitting or if it's like part of the whole. So it's still attached, so I can use it as a warp thread. Okay, so I leave the thread here because I have 3, well, I see here comes a little hole, so I will also still go back with the threads. Or let's take another color in between. Yeah, I often work in an intuitive way, so that's also with darning. I decide on the spot what I really like or which color feels right. And I also use my stitches in that way, so it's always classical. The base is a classical stitch, like the switch mending stitch or like the weaving stitch. But when I use it, I'm more free. I use it more freely, how I want to use it or how I need it or what is like, asked by the whole itself or what is fitting, you know. It's can be all that. So I want to turn to the side because I have to fill in here and here some more threads, and I go back. There's something like a bulky thread over there. I have to be careful that it will not be very bulky at the end because we don't want to have that, of course. Okay, so I need one more thread like this, and then I can start the weft thread. Yeah. So I think it's also nice to, I will show you now how to end, because I will end this thread. It's nice, I think, to have a few stitches like the Swiss darning stitch. So if you want to end the thread later on, you have all kinds of loose threads hanging over here and maybe also over there, then you just weave through, or you make the switch darning stitch, and then at the end you can shuffle the thread between the stitches and go back and forth with it. So I make a few Swiss darning stitches just because I like it. And then if I want to close this thread off, I go like this in between the stitches. And then go back. And I make a kind of a zigzag with the running stitches. And I can take this to the back. And because wool has the quality that it will cling in each other, that's why the zigzag running stitch is enough. So you can also show it like this. And then go back. That is how you close it off. Now I can cut it. So I showed it in the back and in the front. Under my mending I have a tool. It's a massage tool. It's plastic, and I use it to have some firm object at the end. It gives me also a shape. It makes it more flexible, what I'm doing, and I can hold it in my hand. I can also shape all the, hold all the loose ends. So here I start with the weaving part. So first I will do, to start, I make again a few of the switch mending stitches. Yeah, as a tool under your work, you can also use maybe an apple or an orange or something else that is round and maybe not made out of textile. That's not so handy, because then you will maybe pick up the textile with your needle and everything is together. So here I'm gonna switch. I'm here and I have some threads. I'm gonna switch now from the switch darning technique to the weaving technique. Weaving means that I go under and like up and under the thread. Like this. You can be, you can switch from the switch darning technique at the corner of at the borders, and then switch to weaving, and you can do that where you like it, of course. Here I go back in between and make a visible, and I go back to the place where I want to be, because I see here still a gap. So I want to fill it in. Oh, that went wrong. I'm now making another warp thread in between, because there was a little hole. So under and above, under and above, under and above, until I reach the other side. Like with weaving, I also shuffle the threads a little bit so that it becomes tight, but not tight in the sense like close to each other, not tight and fixed. So when you weave, the first thread is like that. Like you came here in a certain way, under and above, under and above, and now I want to do the opposite. So if I first have a thread that I go up, then the other one is under, then the other one is up. But if I go the other way, then I will have I go under, and I go like I do exactly the opposite. So that where I first was under, now I will be up, and that's like the whole system of a weave, of course. But we have to be aware of it when we are. So here I was, if you can see it, I am here on top of the blue thread. But now I have to make sure that I will be under the blue threads here. And if I do that in the beginning, being aware of that in the beginning, I will be safe for this whole line. Okay. If I tightening up, I have to be careful that I am not too tight. I have to take the knit in consideration, and that it is a flexible textile. So I leave it like this, and I take another color of thread. I take a blue one. So here I have a little problem, like here it's the border of it's the sides of the cardigan, and so actually it's not a problem, but it feels problematic because it's thick. So what to do with it? But I can use this deze naad. I can use it to be there to shuffle my thread in it, and you won't see it. So actually maybe I can use it. So that's handy. I still turn my work around so that I am can be in between. I do it again. So I showed how you can close it off, like the sides that are there, and how you can weave in between, and also like in the hole, fix the hole, but also how you can change from one stitch to the other stitch and use them both to get something very organic, little work element in your sweater. Okay. So if after continue and filling up the whole space, so it's almost done, you can finish the stitches, the loose ends, in the way how I showed you with the zigzag, and it will be ready and beautiful to wear again.